Dr. Cale Venn stood in his laboratory aboard the GCS Harmonious Accord, examining a sample of crystalline blood under the microscope. The purple liquid shimmered with its own internal light, a property unique to the silicate species. He made careful notes on his datapad, his fingers moving with practiced precision across the holographic interface. The ship hummed around him, a massive vessel that housed over 3,000 crew members from 47 different species. Kyle had served as chief xenobiologist for 2 years now, and his reputation had grown considerably in that time. The crew respected him for his knowledge, his calm demeanor, and his remarkable ability to solve biological mysteries that stumped others. His laboratory was a sanctuary of sorts. Specimens from countless worlds lined the shelves in preservation fields. Charts of alien anatomy covered the walls. It was here that Cale felt most at ease, surrounded by the concrete facts of biology and chemistry. Numbers and cells did not lie. They did not ask uncomfortable questions. A chime sounded at his door. Cale looked up from his work, his blue eyes adjusting to the dimmer lighting of the corridor beyond. "Enter!" he called out. Captain Drell glided into the room on his 4 powerful legs, his amphibious skin glistening with the moisture film his species required. The captain's secondary arms folded across his chest while his primary arms clasped behind his back. His large, dark eyes held an unusual tension. "Dr. Venn, I require your expertise on a matter of utmost secrecy," Drell said, his voice carrying the wet, bubbling quality of his kind. Kyle set down his instruments and gave the captain his full attention. "Of course, Captain. How may I assist?" Drell activated a privacy field that hummed to life around them, ensuring their conversation remained contained. "Coalition intelligence has informed me of a grave situation. They believe we have an infiltrator aboard this vessel." Cale raised an eyebrow. "An infiltrator? From which faction? The contested territories?" "Worse," Drell said, his skin rippling with agitation. "They believe we have a Deathworlder among us." The words hung in the air like a physical weight. Cale felt his heart rate increase slightly, but he kept his expression carefully neutral. "A Deathworlder? Captain, those are mostly myths and rumors. There are only 3 confirmed Deathworld species in Coalition records, and each one has caused significant problems," Drell replied. He pulled up a holographic display between them. "The Krenthar from their high-gravity world, the Voidborn who evolved in hard vacuum, the Titanians from that volcanic hellscape. Each species is dangerously adaptable, aggressive, and difficult to contain." Kyle studied the images floating before him. He had read about these species during his training. Worlds that should not have produced sentient life somehow did, creating beings that could survive almost anything. The galaxy feared them. "Intelligence believes there is a 4th Deathworld," Drell continued. "One we have not yet discovered. And they believe someone from that world has infiltrated Coalition space using advanced biological mimicry. Mimicry sophisticated enough to fool our medical scanners?" Cale asked. "That would require technology beyond even our capabilities." "Precisely why this is so concerning," Drell said. He manipulated the display, bringing up surveillance footage. "Look at this." The video showed a section of the ship's emergency airlock. During a drill 3 weeks ago, someone had been accidentally trapped inside when it depressurized. The figure in the footage should have died instantly in the vacuum. Instead, they survived for nearly 30 seconds before the airlock repressurized, long enough to reach the emergency release. "Who is this?" Cale asked. "The footage is corrupted," Drell admitted. "We cannot identify them." "But doctor, 30 seconds in hard vacuum should kill most species we know. Only a Deathworlder could survive that." Cale leaned closer to examine the grainy footage. The figure's movements were efficient, controlled despite the lethal environment. "What else has intelligence found?" Drell showed him more data. Unusual strength readings during routine ship maintenance. Someone had lifted a cargo container that should have required mechanical assistance. Adaptive behavior patterns that suggested an individual who could think and react far faster than their supposed species profile indicated. Food consumption anomalies in the cafeteria systems. "This is circumstantial," Kyle said carefully. "Many species have individuals with exceptional abilities." "Which is why I need your expertise," Drell said. "Coalition Command has assigned you to lead the investigation. You will analyze the crew, create biological profiles, and identify our infiltrator." The captain's eyes held a weight of responsibility. This Deathworlder must be found before they complete whatever mission they are on. If they report our position back to their homeworld, we could face an invasion from a species we know nothing about. Kale felt the irony of the situation settle over him, like a physical burden. I understand, Captain. When do I begin? Immediately. You will have access to all crew records, medical files, and surveillance data. Report only to me. Shrell paused. Doctor, I know this is not your usual work, but you are the most qualified individual on this ship. Your understanding of xenobiology is unmatched. After the captain left, Kale sat alone in his laboratory for a long time. The privacy field still hummed around him, isolating him from the world outside. He looked at his hands, these human hands that had touched so many alien things. These hands that had learned to move like a dozen different species to avoid detection. He stood and walked to the small mirror in his personal washroom. The face that looked back at him was one he had worn for 3 years now. Bioengineered skin covered his true features. Implants altered his biological signature. Every day he injected himself with compounds that masked his human scent, his human chemistry. The Coalition was hunting for a human. They just did not know what they were looking for. Earth remained hidden in an obscure corner of the galaxy, its location a closely guarded secret. Humanity had discovered faster-than-light travel only 20 years ago, and immediately realized they were not alone. They also realized the galaxy was not a safe place. So Earth's government created the Diplomatic Intelligence Service. They sent out operatives with one mission: learn everything about the wider galaxy before the galaxy learned about Earth. Kale was one of those operatives. He had volunteered, undergone the surgeries and training, and infiltrated Coalition space. Now he was being asked to hunt himself. Kale returned to his laboratory and began pulling up crew files. He would need to create a convincing investigation. He would need to identify suspects, follow false leads, and most importantly, ensure that suspicion never fell on him. He started making notes, his mind already working through the angles. 3 crew members had access to the emergency airlock section during that drill. He would start there. Engineer Tarsk, a reptilian saurian with impressive strength. Medical Officer Layun, an avian cresthall with adaptive plumage. Navigator Kel, a humanoid Talvirian who kept to himself. Any of them could be framed as the Deathworlder if necessary. Kale worked through the night, as he often did. His human biology required less sleep than his supposed species profile indicated, but he had explained this away as a metabolic condition. He kept his quarters cold, far colder than standard, claiming his homeworld had been temperate. He ate alone. Special meals he prepared himself, claiming food allergies. So many small lies stacked carefully over years, creating a false identity that had fooled everyone. As the ship's lights brightened to simulate morning, Kyle finished his preliminary report. He highlighted the 3 suspects and outlined his investigation plan. It was thorough, professional, and would lead Captain Drell exactly where Kyle wanted him to look. He submitted the report and finally allowed himself a moment of rest. The hunt had begun, and he was both the hunter and the prey. Somewhere back on Earth, his handlers would be receiving his encrypted updates, learning about this new development. Kale wondered what they would tell him to do. Continue the mission? Abort and escape? He had gathered so much intelligence already. Fleet positions, military capabilities, political structures, information that could help Earth prepare for eventual first contact. But now everything was at risk. One mistake, one slip in his carefully maintained disguise, and not only would he be captured, but Earth's location might be compromised. The Coalition would come looking for the Deathworld that had dared to send a spy. Kale looked out the viewport at the stars streaming past. Somewhere out there, invisible among billions of stars, was a small blue planet, a world of crushing gravity, deadly weather, aggressive microorganisms, and apex predators that had learned to think. Earth. The Deathworld they were hunting for, and he was going to make sure they never found it. The investigation consumed Kale's days and nights. He moved through the ship like a shadow, observing crew members during their duties, reviewing medical records, analyzing behavioral patterns. To everyone aboard the Harmonious Accord, he was simply doing his job with his characteristic thoroughness. No one suspected that every question he asked, every test he ran, was designed to lead them away from the truth. Engineer Tarsk became his first focus. The Saurian was built like a loading machine, his scales dark green and ridged with muscle. Kale watched him work in the engine room, lifting components that should have required 2 crew members. Tarsk's strength was impressive even for his species. Kale approached with his datapad in hand. "Engineer Tarsk, I need to conduct a routine biological assessment as part of the ship's health survey." Tarsk looked up from his work, his vertical pupils narrowing. "Now? I am in the middle of maintenance." "It will only take a moment," Kale said pleasantly. He ran a scanner over Tarsk's body, recording readings that he already knew would show nothing unusual. Tarsk was exactly what he appeared to be, but Kale added careful notes to his file, highlighting the unusual strength, the solitary work habits, the encrypted personal communications with his homeworld, everything that could be made to look suspicious if viewed through the right lens. Medical Officer Lyun was different. The Crestal was friendly, almost chatty, her feathers shifting colors with her moods. She reminded Kale of his younger sister back on Earth. The same quick laugh, the same curiosity about everything. "Dr. Venn," Lyun chirped as he entered the medical bay. "What brings you to my domain?" "The investigation," Kale said, setting up his equipment. "I need to review your medical history and run some tests." "Oh, the Deathworlder hunt," Lyun said, her feathers rippling to an anxious yellow.
"It is frightening, is it not?"
Thinking that one of us might be something else entirely. Kale carefully drew a blood sample. "Species mimicry is rare but not impossible. Try not to worry." "I just wonder what they want," Lyun continued. "The Deathworlder, I mean. Why infiltrate us? Are they planning something terrible?" Her large eyes looked at him with genuine concern. Kale felt a stab of guilt. Lyun was kind, dedicated to healing. She did not deserve to be on his list of suspects. But he added her anyway, noting her adaptive physiology, her access to medical supplies that could mask biological signatures, her unexplained skill at emergency medicine during crisis situations. Navigator Kel was the most mysterious of his 3 suspects. The Talvarian kept to himself, spending his off-duty hours in his quarters. He spoke little during crew meetings, did his work with quiet efficiency, and maintained a polite distance from everyone. When Kyle interviewed him, Kel's responses were minimal. "Yes, doctor." "No, doctor. I came from Talvarian Colony 7. I have no family. I joined the Coalition fleet to see the galaxy." Kale studied him carefully. Kel's eyes were gray and gave away nothing. His background check showed a normal history, but something about the navigator felt off. It was not that he was hiding something terrible. It was that he was hiding from something, maybe from his own loneliness. Still, Kale marked him as a suspect. Solitary behavior, excellent spatial reasoning beyond his species norm, unexplained gaps in his employment history. 3 suspects, none of them actually guilty, all of them serving as convenient shields for the real infiltrator. Weeks passed. Kale submitted regular reports to Captain Drell, showing steady progress. He implemented new security measures, ran crew-wide biological scans, and created an elaborate matrix of suspect behaviors. The crew grew nervous. People watched each other with suspicion. The friendly atmosphere aboard the Harmonious Accord became strained. Kyle hated what he was doing to them. These were good people, living their lives, doing their jobs. They did not deserve this paranoia. But his mission was bigger than their comfort. Earth needed the intelligence he was gathering. Humanity's survival might depend on it. Late one night, alone in his quarters, Kale sat before his hidden quantum communicator. The device was disguised as a decorative crystal from his supposed homeworld. He activated it with a series of touches that would mean nothing to anyone watching. An encrypted text message formed in the air before him. "Status report required. Has your cover been compromised?" Kale typed his response carefully. "Negative. Have been assigned to lead investigation into my own presence. Situation under control. Continuing to gather fleet intelligence." "Understood. Exercise extreme caution. Earth cannot risk exposure at this time. Abort protocol ready if needed." Kyle dismissed the message. Abort protocol meant a small explosive device implanted in his chest cavity. If he activated it, he would die, and the blast would destroy all evidence of his human biology. His body would be unidentifiable. Earth would remain safe. He preferred not to use that option. A sudden alarm jolted him from his thoughts. Emergency lights flashed red throughout the ship. A synthesized voice announced through the speakers, "All crew to emergency stations. Plasma storm approaching. Severe solar activity detected. Kyle rushed from his quarters, his human reflexes moving him faster than he should have been able to move. He caught himself and slowed to a more appropriate pace. In the corridors, crew members hurried to their stations with practiced efficiency. The storm hit like a hammer. The ship shuddered as waves of charged particles battered the shields. Lights flickered. Gravity generators struggled to maintain stability. Kale made his way to the command deck where Captain Jrel stood coordinating the crew's response. "Status," the captain demanded. "Shields holding at 60%, someone reported. Navigation is having trouble maintaining course." "Engineering, I need more power to forward shields," Jrel commanded. Through the viewport, the plasma storm was beautiful and terrible. Waves of purple and blue energy crashed against invisible barriers. The ship groaned under the assault. Then Kale saw it. A support beam in the ceiling had come loose, weakened by the constant shaking. It was going to fall directly onto a young technician who stood below, focused on her console. Time seemed to slow. Kale's human brain processed the trajectory, the timing, the weight. His body moved before his conscious mind caught up. He crossed the deck in 3 long strides, grabbed the technician and pulled her clear just as the beam crashed down where she had been standing. The deck went silent except for the storm's fury outside. Every eye turned to Kale. He stood there holding the shaking technician, realizing what he had just done. The speed, the strength, the reflexes, all far beyond what his supposed species could manage. Captain Jrel stared at him. "Dr. Venn, how did you move so fast?" Kale's mind raced. He set the technician down gently and gave her his most reassuring smile before turning to the captain. "Training, Captain. During my xenobiology studies, I took courses in emergency response. We practiced scenario drills extensively." He gestured to the fallen beam. "I saw the structural weakness beginning to fail and calculated the likely trajectory. Basic physics, really. It was a weak explanation, but the storm demanded everyone's attention." The moment passed. Crew members returned to their stations. The technician thanked him profusely. Captain Jrel gave him a long look but said nothing more. Kyle returned to his position, his heart pounding. That had been too close. His human instincts had overridden his caution. He had endangered everything because he could not let an innocent person die. The storm passed after an hour. The ship survived with minor damage. Kale helped coordinate medical teams as they treated injuries. He worked alongside Liyun, watching her gentle care for the wounded, feeling his guilt deepen. She was a healer. She deserved better than to be suspected of being an infiltrator. Later in his laboratory, Kale updated his files. He made a note in his own personnel record about his emergency training and his fortunate timing during the storm. He emphasized his theoretical knowledge of physics and structural engineering. He made himself look lucky rather than capable, but he knew the incident would be noticed. Someone, somewhere, would review that footage. They would wonder. They would question. He needed to accelerate his plans. The investigation had to conclude soon, before more accidents forced him to reveal his abilities. He needed to give Captain Jrel a Deathworlder to catch, someone to blame, someone to put an end to all this scrutiny. Kale looked at his 3 suspects' files. Tarsk, strong and solitary. Liyun, adaptive and skilled. Kel, mysterious and withdrawn. One of them would have to become the scapegoat. One of them would have to take the fall for crimes they did not commit. He thought about the technician he had saved, about Liyun's kindness, about all the good people on this ship who trusted him, and he thought about Earth, about his real sister, about the billions of humans who had no idea that their existence was hidden from a galaxy that feared Deathworlds. Kale made his choice. He began fabricating evidence carefully and meticulously. Digital footprints that led nowhere. Communication logs that suggested encrypted messages. Behavioral analysis that painted an increasingly suspicious picture. The hunt would continue, and Kale would make sure it ended exactly how he needed it to end. Even if it meant sacrificing his own humanity in the process. Outside his viewport, the stars continued their endless dance, uncaring of the small dramas playing out in the ship passing through their light. The message from Coalition Command arrived without warning. Captain Jrel summoned Kale to his private quarters rather than the command deck, which meant the matter was serious. When Kyle entered, he found the captain standing with another figure, one that made his human blood run cold despite his years of training. Inquisitor Vrex stood nearly 2 meters tall, his 6 legs supporting a thorax covered in chitinous plates. His species, the Archons, had evolved as pursuit predators on a world of endless forests. 6 eyes on stalks could rotate independently, seeing in multiple directions at once. Those eyes now focused on Kale with unsettling intensity. "Dr. Venn," Captain Jrell said, his skin rippling with tension. "This is Inquisitor Vrex from Coalition Counterintelligence. He will be assisting with our investigation." "Overseeing," Vrex corrected, his mandibles clicking as he spoke. His voice was dry like wind through dead leaves. "Coalition Command believes this matter requires specialized expertise. I have successfully identified 17 infiltrators during my career. I have never failed an assignment." Kale felt the weight of those 6 eyes studying every micro-movement of his body. "Welcome aboard, Inquisitor. I am happy to share all my findings with you." "I have already reviewed your reports," Vrex said. "They are thorough. Almost too thorough. You have focused on 3 primary suspects, yet I detect hesitation in your conclusions. I prefer to work with certainty rather than speculation," Kale replied carefully. "Admirable," Vrex clicked, "but inefficient. When hunting dangerous prey, sometimes one must force them to reveal themselves." He turned to Captain Jrell. "I will require complete access to all ship systems, including private crew quarters." "No one is above suspicion, including Dr. Venn?" Jrell asked, and Kale detected a note of protectiveness in the captain's voice. "Especially Dr. Venn," Vrex said, his eyes never leaving Kale. "The best place to hide is often in plain sight. Who better to lead an investigation than the subject of that investigation?" The room fell silent. Kale forced himself to remain calm, to keep his heart rate steady. "I understand, Inquisitor. I have nothing to hide. You are welcome to examine my quarters, my records, my entire life." "I intend to," Vrex assured him. "I will examine everyone's life. Every crew member on this vessel will be scrutinized. We will find our Deathworlder." Over the following days, Inquisitor Vrex turned the ship upside down. He implemented new scanning procedures at every checkpoint. He conducted surprise inspections of crew quarters. He interviewed everyone, his 6 eyes watching for the smallest hint of deception. Kyle found himself being investigated as much as he was investigating. Vrex appeared without warning in his laboratory, asking questions about his background, his training, his daily routines. The Inquisitor's questions seemed random, but Kale recognized the pattern. Vrex was looking for inconsistencies, small lies that would unravel under repeated questioning. "Tell me about your homeworld," Vrex said during one such visit. "Talvis 7, a temperate world, slightly lower gravity than standard. I was born in the southern continent in a coastal city called Maravan." "And your family?" "My mother was a teacher. My father worked in genetic agriculture. I had 2 siblings, both younger. All lies carefully constructed and memorized. On Earth, his real mother was a botanist, and his father had died when Kale was young. He had 1 sister, not 2 siblings." "You keep your quarters cold," Vrex observed. "Why?" "My homeworld's coastal regions were cool. I find the standard ship temperature uncomfortable. You eat alone, special prepared meals. Food allergies. Common in my region. The ship's standard menu includes proteins that cause me digestive distress. You require less sleep than your species profile indicates. A metabolic condition. I explained this during my initial medical examination." Vrex's eyes rotated, studying him from multiple angles. "Everything has an explanation with you, Doctor." "Because everything does have an explanation, Inquisitor. I am what I appear to be." That is exactly what an infiltrator would say. The conversation left Kale shaken. Vrex was more dangerous than he had anticipated. The Inquisitor's mind was sharp, his instincts honed by years of catching liars and spies. Kale needed to be perfect, and perfect was becoming harder to maintain. His quantum communicator brought a message from Earth. "Reports indicate increased scrutiny. Recommend abort if compromise risk exceeds 40%. Priority is mission survival, not data collection." Kale stared at the message for a long time. Abort meant death. His death. But it also meant Earth remained safe. Was he compromised? Vrex suspected him, but suspicion was not proof. "Not yet," he responded. "Risk assessment at 35%. Continuing mission. We'll monitor closely." The response came quickly. "Understood. Remember your training. Remember what is at stake." Kale closed the communicator and sat in the darkness of his quarters. He remembered his training all too well. 6 months in an isolated facility, learning to move like aliens, think like aliens, suppress every human instinct. They had broken him down and rebuilt him into something that could pass among the stars. But they had not removed his humanity. They could not. That was both his greatest strength and his most dangerous weakness. The ship suddenly shuddered and alarms blared through the corridors. Not a natural event this time. The sensors showed ships approaching, their energy signatures unfamiliar and aggressive. Pirates. Kyle ran to the command deck with the other senior officers. Through the viewport, he could see 3 ships converging on their position. They were smaller than the Harmonious Accord but faster, more maneuverable. Shields up, Captain Zrel commanded. Load defensive weapons. Send distress signal to nearest coalition patrol. They are jamming our communications, the communications officer reported. Vrex stood to one side, watching everything with his multiple eyes. Even in crisis, he was observing, measuring, judging. The pirate ships opened fire. Energy bolts slammed into the shields, each impact shaking the deck. The Harmonious Accord was an exploration vessel, not a warship. It had defenses but limited offensive capability. Return fire, Zrel ordered. Target their engines. The ship's defensive weapons engaged, bright lances of energy reaching across space. One pirate ship peeled away, trailing atmosphere from a hull breach. But the other 2 pressed their attack. Shields at 40%, someone called out. They are trying to board us, another officer warned. Docking clamps detected on starboard hull. Captain Zrel's skin went dark with stress. All security teams to starboard docking ports. Prepare to repel boarders, Kale saw the tactical display. The pirates were cutting through the outer hull. They would be inside within minutes. The ship's security force was good but not trained for this level of combat. People were going to die. His human instincts screamed at him. He knew combat. Earth's military had trained him thoroughly before his infiltration mission. He could help. He could fight. He could save lives, but doing so would expose him completely. Rex's eyes turned toward him as if sensing his internal conflict. Dr. Venn, you should evacuate to a secure location. This will be dangerous. I am staying, Kale heard himself say. Medical personnel will be needed if there are casualties. How brave, Rex clicked. Or perhaps how necessary if one needed to maintain a certain image. Before Kale could respond, an explosion rocked the ship. The pirates had breached the hull. Warning lights flashed red. The sound of weapons fire echoed through the corridors. Kale made his way toward the medical bay where Liyun would be preparing for wounded. He passed security teams rushing toward the breach point. Through the chaos, he could hear the sounds of fighting getting closer. Then he rounded a corner and came face to face with 2 pirate raiders. They were Krenthar, one of the known Deathworld species, massive armored and thick exoskeletons carrying heavy plasma weapons. They spotted Kale immediately. Another one, the first raider growled. No fight in these coalition weaklings. Time seemed to stop. Kale knew what he should do. He should run, call for help, act like the civilian scientist he claimed to be. That was the smart choice. The safe choice. But these raiders were moving toward the medical bay. Toward Liyun and her patients, his body moved. Not like a Talvusian scientist, like a human soldier. Kale ducked under the first plasma bolt, his human reflexes reading the raider's stance and anticipating the shot. He grabbed a fallen security baton from the floor and used it to deflect the second raider's swing. Then he struck, fast and precise, hitting nerve clusters he had studied on Krenthar anatomy charts. The first raider went down with a surprised grunt. The second stared at him in shock. What are you? Kale did not answer. He disabled the second raider with quick strikes, leaving both unconscious in the corridor. His human military training had taken over completely, and only afterward did he realize what he had done, what he had revealed. He looked up to find Vrex standing at the end of the corridor, all 6 eyes fixed on him. The Inquisitor had witnessed everything. Remarkable, Vrex said softly. Such combat efficiency, such precise anatomical knowledge applied with lethal skill. Tell me, Dr. Venn, what species of scientist learns to fight like a trained soldier? Kale stood there breathing heavily, still holding the baton. His disguise was shattered. Everything he had worked for, all the careful lies undone in 30 seconds of combat. I can explain, he began. I am certain you can, Vrex replied. You explain every. Kale stood in the isolation cell, His hands pressed against the transparent barrier. The pirates had been driven off, the ship was secure, but none of that mattered now. Vrex had seen what he could do. The Inquisitor had not arrested him immediately, which was almost worse than if he had. Instead, Vrex had simply said, "We will discuss this in private. Doctor," before walking away. That had been 6 hours ago. Now Kale waited in a holding room. Not technically under arrest, but certainly not free. 2 armed guards stood outside. The room was comfortable enough with a bed and basic facilities, but the walls were reinforced and the door was sealed. When Vrex finally arrived, he came alone. The Inquisitor's 6 eyes studied Kale through the barrier before he deactivated it and stepped inside. "I have been reviewing your file extensively," Vrex said. "Every detail, every claim, every piece of documentation. Do you know what I found?" "I imagine you found what you were looking for," Kyle replied quietly. "I found perfection. A life story with no contradictions, no gaps, no inconsistencies. Your background is flawless, which paradoxically makes it deeply suspicious. Real lives have messiness, Doctor. Yours has none." Kyle said nothing. There was nothing to say. "However," Vrex continued, "I also found no definitive proof that you are not what you claim to be. Your medical records match your supposed species. Your biological scans are consistent. If you are a Deathworlder using mimicry, it is the most sophisticated deception I have ever encountered. Then perhaps I am simply what I appear to be," Kale suggested. Vrex's mandibles clicked in what might have been laughter. "No, I watched you fight. I saw your speed, your precision. That was not theoretical knowledge applied in panic. That was trained muscle memory. Combat experience. You are a soldier pretending to be a scientist. Even scientists can learn self-defense, not like that. Not with that efficiency." Vrex moved closer. "I have narrowed my suspects to 4 individuals. You, Engineer Tarsk, Medical Officer Leon, and Navigator Kell. One of you is the Deathworlder, and I have authorization from Coalition Command to implement special protocols to identify which one." Kale felt dread settle in his stomach. "What kind of protocols?" "Deathworld protocols," Vrex said. "Biological stress tests designed specifically to trigger physiological responses unique to high-stress evolution. Deathworlders develop certain survival characteristics: enhanced adrenaline response, increased pain tolerance, accelerated healing. These protocols will force those characteristics to surface. That sounds like torture." "It is scientific testing under controlled conditions," Vrex corrected. "And it is necessary. The 4 of you will undergo these tests. The one who shows Deathworld characteristics will be identified." Over the next 3 days, Kale lived through controlled hell. They started with pain tolerance tests. Calibrated electrical stimulation that gradually increased in intensity. Most species had predictable pain thresholds. Kale had to carefully control his responses, showing discomfort at the appropriate levels, crying out when expected. His human body wanted to endure more, but he could not let it. He monitored the others being tested. Tarsk bellowed in pain. Leon's feathers went stark white. Kell remained silent, but his body trembled. Then came the stress response tests, simulated combat scenarios, life or death decisions under time pressure. Kale had to deliberately make mistakes, show panic, act like someone unused to violence. It went against every instinct, every bit of his training. He watched Tarsk respond with brute force, Leon with freezing fear, Kell with calculated withdrawal. The metabolic tests were worst. They monitored oxygen consumption, muscle efficiency, cellular recovery rates. Kale took drugs beforehand, compounds he had hidden in his quarters for emergencies. They would slow his metabolism temporarily, make him appear weaker than he was. The drugs made him sick, but they kept his human physiology hidden. Vrex watched everything, his 6 eyes recording every detail. Medical technicians monitored screens full of biological data. Captain Zrel observed grimly, clearly uncomfortable with the process but unable to interfere with Coalition orders. On the 4th day, weak from the drugs and the constant stress of maintaining his disguise, Kale made a decision. He began planting evidence. It was subtle work, done during the brief periods when he was returned to his quarters. Digital footprints in Tarsk's personal files, encrypted data packets that suggested off-world communications. Behavioral analysis notes that painted increasingly suspicious patterns. Tarsk had an encrypted data cache in his quarters. Kale had discovered it early in his investigation. The engineer was hiding something, though Kale suspected it was nothing sinister. Maybe gambling debts, maybe correspondence with a forbidden lover, personal secrets that had nothing to do with Deathworlds. But secrets could be made to look like guilt. Kyle fabricated analysis suggesting the encryption patterns matched known Deathworld technological signatures. He created biological data showing Tarsk's strength exceeded even generous estimates for his species. He wrote reports highlighting the engineer's solitary nature, his defensiveness during questioning, his access to secure systems. Piece by piece, Kale built a case against an innocent person. On the 5th day, Vrex summoned all 4 suspects to a conference room. Captain Drell was there along with security officers. The mood was grim. "I have completed my analysis," Vrex announced. "The evidence points conclusively to one individual." His eyes turned toward Tarsk. "Engineer Tarsk, you are the Deathworld infiltrator." Tarsk's vertical pupils dilated in shock. "What? No. I am Saurian. I was born on Sauria Prime." "Yet your strength exceeds your species norms by significant margins," Vrex stated. "Your encrypted communications suggest contact with an unknown source. Your behavioral patterns indicate military training inconsistent with your claimed background. My strength is natural variation. My communications are personal. I have done nothing wrong." Tarsk's voice rose in desperation. Kale sat silently watching an innocent being condemned for his crimes. Leon looked horrified. Kel's expression showed nothing. Captain Jarrell's skin had gone pale. "You will be detained pending transfer to Coalition Counterintelligence Headquarters," Vrex continued. "There you will undergo deep biological analysis to confirm your true nature." "I am not a Deathworlder," Tarsk roared. "I am Saurian. Test me, scan me." "You will find nothing because there is nothing to find." Security officers moved forward to take Tarsk into custody. The engineer did not resist, but his eyes held a desperate terror. He looked at Kale. "Dr. Venn, please. Tell them you know biology. Tell them I am what I claim to be." Kale looked away. He could not meet Tarsk's eyes. After they took the engineer away, Kale returned to his quarters. He sat in the darkness, his human hands shaking. He had done what was necessary. He had protected his mission. He had protected Earth, but the cost was an innocent life. His quantum communicator activated. The message from Earth was brief. "Reports suggest investigation concluded successfully. Primary objective achieved. Prepare extraction protocols within 60 days. Well done. Well done." They were praising him for condemning an innocent being. Kale thought about activating the abort protocol, ending it all. But that would not help Tarsk. It would only confirm the Deathworlder narrative and leave the engineer to face whatever interrogations awaited at Coalition headquarters. That night, Kale could not sleep. He kept seeing Tarsik's face, hearing his desperate pleas. He thought about Leon, who had been so relieved to be cleared. About Kel, who had simply nodded and returned to his duties. About all the people on this ship who had trusted him. The next morning, Vrex came to see him. "You appear troubled, Dr. Venn." "I am concerned we may have made a mistake," Kale said carefully. "Are you? How interesting." Vrex's eyes rotated independently, a disconcerting sight. "Tell me something. During your investigation, did you ever wonder if the Deathworlder might be someone capable of manipulating the investigation itself?" Kale's heart rate spiked. "What do you mean?" "I mean that Engineer Tarsk is not a Deathworlder. His biological test confirmed his species identity conclusively." Vrex moved closer. The evidence against him was planted. Expertly planted by someone with intimate knowledge of our investigation protocols. The room seemed to tilt. "Then why did you arrest him?" "To see who would show guilt," Vrex replied. "To see who would crack under the weight of condemning an innocent." "You are cracking, Dr. Venn. I can see it in every micro-expression, every stress response. I am concerned about justice, nothing more." "You are concerned because you know Tarsk is innocent. You know because you framed him." Vrex's mandibles clicked rapidly. "You are good, Doctor. Better than any infiltrator I have encountered. But you have a weakness, you care. Deathworlders from the known species do not care about collateral damage. But you do, which tells me something fascinating about your species." Kyle stood slowly. There was no point in continuing the deception. "What are you going to do?" "That depends on you," Vrex said. "I have not yet filed my report to Coalition Command. I wanted to understand first, to know what kind of Deathworld produces someone like you. One that teaches honor along with survival," Kale said quietly. "One where strength comes with responsibility." Rex studied him for a long moment. I am going to show you, so. Kyle looked at the genocidal protocols floating in the air before him and made his decision. He had spent 3 years hiding, lying, pretending to be something he was not. He had condemned an innocent being to protect his secret. Enough. I cannot let Tarsk suffer for my presence here, Kyle said, and I cannot let my people face extinction because of the galaxy's fear. Then what do you propose? Frex asked. A demonstration, Kale replied. Not of human threat, but of human possibility. The galaxy fears Deathworlders because you do not understand them. Let me show you what we really are. 3 days later, everything went wrong at once. Kyle had planned carefully. He had accessed the ship's environmental systems using codes he should not have known. He created a cascade failure that would appear accidental, but would actually be completely under his control. Life support began failing in sections throughout the ship. Oxygen levels dropped, temperature regulation malfunctioned, emergency protocols activated, chaos erupted aboard the Harmonious Accord. Captain Drell rushed to coordinate the crisis response, but the problems were too widespread, happening too fast. Crew members evacuated affected sections. Engineering teams scrambled to identify the failures. Medical teams prepared for casualties. In the confusion, Kale moved. He went first to the detention level where Tarsk was being held. The security guards there were distracted by emergency alarms. Kale approached them calmly, his hands visible and empty. The detention area needs to be evacuated, he said. Life support is critical. Before they could respond, he moved. Not like a scientist, like what he truly was. His hand struck the first guard's nerve cluster with precise force. The guard dropped. The second guard managed to reach for a weapon, but Kale was faster. He disarmed her with a move that would have been impossible for his supposed species, then rendered her unconscious with a careful blow to the temple. Neither guard was seriously injured. Kale had been precise. He opened Tarsk's cell. The engineer stared at him in confusion. Dr. Venn? What is happening? I am setting things right, Kale said. Stay here. You are not in danger. This will all be clear soon. He left Tarsk in the open cell and moved toward the command deck. More security personnel tried to stop him. Kale disabled them all with efficient, non-lethal force. His human body moved with the grace of a predator, using strength and speed no Talvusian could match. Rex's security team was better trained. They came at him in coordination, using tactics meant to overwhelm. But Kale had trained against human special forces, who were more dangerous than anything the Coalition had produced. He flowed through their attacks, redirecting their force, using their own momentum against them. Within 10 minutes, he had fought his way to the command deck. Captain Drell stood there with his senior officers, trying to manage the cascading emergencies. When Kale entered, covered in the evidence of his fights but uninjured, the captain's skin went dark with shock. Dr. Venn, what have you done? What I should have done from the beginning, Kyle replied. He walked to the environmental control station and entered a command sequence. Throughout the ship, life support systems stabilized. The crisis ended as suddenly as it had begun. I created this emergency. I can end it. I did so to demonstrate something important. Rex appeared from a side corridor, his security team behind him. The Inquisitor had been waiting, watching just as Kale had known he would be. All 6 eyes focused on the human standing in the center of the command deck. A demonstration of force? Frex asked. A demonstration of restraint, Kyle corrected. He reached up and pressed his fingers to his neck, finding the small control node buried beneath his skin. He activated it. You have been hunting a Deathworlder. You found him. You just did not recognize what you were looking at. The bioengineered skin began to dissolve. It was a slow process, taking nearly a minute. The crew watched in horrified fascination as Kyle's disguise literally peeled away, revealing the human beneath. His true skin was lighter, his features different. His eyes changed from the dull color of his disguise to a bright blue. His hair, previously a neutral gray, became brown. He stood there as himself for the first time in 3 years. My name is Kyle Venn, he said. I am human. I come from a planet called Earth, and yes, it is a death world. The command deck was silent. Weapons were pointed at him from multiple directions, but no one fired. They simply stared. Earth has gravity 20% higher than galactic standard, Kale continued. Our atmosphere is rich with oxygen, highly reactive and flammable. Our weather systems generate storms that would destroy most settlements. We evolved alongside predators that still hunt us, disease organisms that still kill us. Every aspect of our world tried to end us, and we survived by learning, adapting, and refusing to give up. You infiltrated us, Captain Jarrell said, his voice tight. You deceived us. You have been spying on the Coalition for years. Yes, Kyle admitted, because humanity discovered faster than light travel and found a galaxy that fears what we are. We found your protocols, Captain. We know what happens when you discover a new Deathworld. Containment, evaluation, potential sanitization. He gestured to the screens around them. We learned you would rather destroy us than risk knowing us. Can you blame us? Vrex asked. Look at what you have done here. You fought through trained security. You sabotaged chip systems. You demonstrated exactly why we fear Deathworlders. And look at what I did not do, Kale countered. He pointed to the security teams around the deck. I disabled 23 security personnel on my way here. How many did I kill? Silence, none, Kyle answered. I could have killed them easily. My world taught me how. But it also taught me when not to. That is what you do not understand about Deathworlds. Yes, they make us dangerous, but they also teach us restraint, because uncontrolled violence leads to extinction. He turned to face Vrex directly. You hunted for a monster. You expected someone who would kill without hesitation, who would sabotage this ship and let everyone die. Instead, you found someone who risked his entire mission to save a technician during a storm. Someone who could not live with framing an innocent engineer. Someone who cares in pretty words, Vrex said. But you are still a spy. An infiltrator. A threat. I am a diplomat, Kale corrected. A very poorly equipped diplomat who had to work alone because my species did not know how else to make contact. Earth sent people like me to learn about you, to understand you, to figure out if there was any chance for peace. And what did I learn? He gestured around the command deck. I learned that the galaxy is full of good people. I learned that Captain Jarrell leads with wisdom and compassion. That medical officer Lune heals everyone equally. That even Inquisitor Vrex, as terrifying as he is, operates from a genuine desire to protect his people. I learned that you are not monsters, which means we might not be either. What do you want? Captain Jarrell asked. I want to offer you a choice, Kale said. The Coalition can treat this as you always have. Capture me, interrogate me, try to find Earth's location. Maybe you will succeed. Maybe you will not. If you do find Earth, you can implement your sanitization protocols. You can try to destroy my world, he paused. But consider what that would cost. We are not helpless. We have been preparing for the possibility of war since we discovered we were not alone. Earth has billions of humans, all from the same death world that made me. Can you really afford that war? Are you threatening us? Frex demanded. I am being realistic, Kale replied. But I am also offering an alternative. First contact. Peaceful first contact. Let me arrange a meeting between Earth representatives and Coalition diplomats. Let us talk instead of fight. Let us prove that Deathworlders can be allies instead of enemies. Why should we trust you? Captain Jarrell asked. You have lied to us for years. Because I am trusting you right now, Kale said. He slowly reached into his jacket and pulled out a small device. This is a quantum communicator. Direct link to Earth. I can destroy it right now and you would never find my homeworld. Or I can use it to arrange first contact. The choice is mine. He set the device on the command console. But I am giving you the choice instead. Captain Inquisitor, you have seen what a human can do. You have also seen what a human chooses not to do. You can send fleets to hunt us, or you can send diplomats to meet us. Which do you think will end better for everyone involved? The command deck remained silent. Kale could see the calculations happening behind their eyes, fear warring with curiosity, threat assessment balanced against opportunity. Finally, Captain Jarrell spoke. Release Engineer Tarsk immediately, with full apologies and compensation for wrongful detention. Already done, Captain, Vrex said. I released him and sealed all records before Dr. Venn began his demonstration. Kale felt a wave of relief. At least one wrong had been righted. As for you, Jarrell continued, looking at Kyle, you have committed serious crimes, espionage, infiltration, impersonation. These cannot be ignored. I understand, Kyle said. However, the captain continued, you have also shown remarkable restraint and honor. You saved crew members. You revealed yourself to prevent an innocent from suffering. You offer peace instead of demanding it. Jarrell's skin rippled with emotion. The Coalition was founded on principles of cooperation between different species. Perhaps it is time we remembered those Princi,